Is he really going to be all right? Well, I'll just see what I can do about that.
You, gonna buy that hat?
You like it?
Yeah, I like it fine.
You sure, really?
Well, I don't think he could do any better than that.
For 20 seasons, one of the strongest relationships on television stayed behind an invisible line no one ever crossed. Fans saw the chemistry. They watched the closeness build year after year. Yet a single moment that seemed inevitable never came. Viewers kept waiting for the episode where everything finally changed, but that scene was never written. Rumors spread, theories took over, and even longtime fans were left confused. Many believed it was the network's doing, while others thought the actors simply didn't want to go there. The truth, however, was far more intentional and surprisingly personal. Keep watching as we reveal why James Arness chose never to kiss Miss Kitty. The man behind the badge, James Arness. Long before he became the quiet force of justice in Gunsmoke, his life was shaped by discipline, injury, and steady determination. Born James King Arness on May 26, 1923, in Minneapolis, Minnesota, he was the son of Ralph Arness and Ruth Duesler, a hard-working Norwegian-American couple. Growing up during the Great Depression taught him humility and endurance early in life. He wasn't someone who chased fame. In fact, his unusual height often made him feel uncomfortable. By his teenage years, he had already passed 6 feet, and he often felt out of place because of it. Ironically, the very thing that made him self-conscious would later become a key part of his screen presence. When World War II began, Arness's life changed instantly. He enlisted in the U.S. Army and served as a rifleman on the front lines. During the Battle of Anzio in Italy, he was struck by enemy fire and suffered a serious leg wound that nearly killed him. He was carried out under heavy fire and later received both the Bronze Star and the Purple Heart. The injury caused lifelong pain and left him with a limp he tried to hide throughout his acting career. It showed the level of resilience he carried long before Hollywood noticed him. After the war, unsure of his direction, Arness worked a series of small jobs, loading trucks, radio announcing, anything he could find, until friends encouraged him to try acting. He eventually moved to Hollywood and shortened his name to Arness. His early years in the film industry were difficult. He appeared in small or uncredited roles and slowly learned the craft that would eventually define his career. Everything changed when he met John Wayne. Wayne recognized something unique in him, a calm strength, and took him under his wing. He even recommended Arness for the lead role in Gunsmoke when CBS began searching for someone to play Marshall Dillon. What most people don't know is that Arness almost rejected the role. He was anxious about committing to a long television series and wasn't sure he could pull it off. But once he accepted the part, his steady presence and quiet authority won over audiences immediately. Away from the cameras, James Arness stayed very grounded. He didn't like the attention that came with celebrity. He rarely did interviews, avoided the Hollywood spotlight, and preferred spending time with his family, his horses, and the outdoors. Friends often said he carried a sense of gratitude mixed with a quiet heaviness from his wartime injuries and personal losses. He wasn't just acting like a hero. He had lived through real danger, real pain, and real sacrifice. His path, from a wounded soldier to one of television's most unforgettable leading men, shows how steady discipline and honesty shaped the character that millions came to admire. Amanda Blake. Amanda Blake, born Beverly Louise Neal, was far more than the stylish saloon owner Miss Kitty Russell that viewers came to love. Born on February 20th, 1929, in Buffalo, New York, she grew up in a stable home where creativity and imagination were always encouraged. From childhood, She was drawn to performing. She loved movies and the chance to tell stories. After finishing high school, she worked as a telephone operator while acting in community theater. Her natural charm and striking looks quickly made her stand out. Before long, MGM, one of Hollywood's biggest studios, signed her, and she appeared in a string of films throughout the 1950s. Her auburn hair, warm energy, and confident style made her memorable. But everything changed when she took the role of Miss Kitty in 1955. It was the part that defined her career and made her a household name. Miss Kitty Russell, the confident and capable owner of the Long Branch Saloon, became one of the earliest symbols of female strength on television. At a time when women rarely had commanding roles, she stood out. Amanda Blake brought elegance, subtle humor, and a steady, calm presence to the character, making Miss Kitty the emotional core of Dodge City. But while she played a woman full of confidence, Amanda's private life was filled with emotional challenges. She married 4 times, and each relationship ended in separation or divorce. Friends often said she wished for the kind of lasting love that Miss Kitty seemed to share with Marshall Dillon, but real life never gave her that kind of stability. Even with her success, Amanda often felt lonely as she tried to balance the demands of her career with her hope for companionship. Away from the screen, she was known for her kindness and her strong love for animals. She became one of the earliest celebrities to speak up for animal welfare. She helped establish the Arizona Animal Welfare League and later created a wildlife sanctuary that protected big cats such as lions and tigers. She was proudest of that part of her life. In one interview, she said that caring for animals brought her a sense of calm she never found in Hollywood. Still, Amanda faced her own struggles. She had been a heavy smoker for many years, and it eventually damaged her health. She was diagnosed with oral cancer in the 1980s, went through multiple surgeries, and retired from acting. Even while dealing with illness, she kept her dignity and sense of humor, rarely discussing her pain in public. People who knew her personally described her as warm, loyal, and generous, someone who carried her strength quietly. She spent her final years mostly away from the spotlight, surrounded by close friends and the animals she loved. Amanda Blake passed away in 1989 at the age of 60, leaving behind a legacy that still has an impact today. To millions of viewers, she will always be Miss Kitty, courageous, compassionate, and full of spark, a woman who gave Dodge City its heart. But to those who knew Amanda herself, she was far more than a television icon. She was resilient, hopeful, and determined to live life her own way. Her journey was one of talent, perseverance, and a deep love for the world around her, traits that made her unforgettable both on and off the screen. A complicated friendship. The friendship between James Arness and Amanda Blake was one of the most quietly layered relationships in television. On screen, they played Marshall Matt Dillon and Miss Kitty Russell, characters linked by deep affection, respect, and a subtle romantic tension that kept viewers watching for 2 decades. Off-screen, their connection was far more complex than most people realized. From their earliest days on the Gunsmoke set, their chemistry was obvious. Scenes between them felt natural. Amanda, known for her lively and teasing personality, often tried to loosen Arness's serious nature, while he responded with his familiar, soft smile. Crew members often described their friendship as built on trust and loyalty, though it wasn't without challenges. Arness was quiet, disciplined, and preferred privacy. Amanda was outgoing and loved being around others. Their different personalities blended perfectly on camera, but at times created distance away from it. Many people believed Amanda had real affection for Arness that went beyond her character's feelings. But Arness, shaped by his experiences in the war and his private nature, kept his guard up. He often said he liked keeping his work life and personal life separate, which may explain why he never let their friendship turn into anything more. Fans regularly hoped they were secretly a couple, and rumors followed them for years. There were stories about late-night conversations or quiet dinners, but neither of them ever confirmed anything romantic. Both avoided gossip and always spoke respectfully of each other. Amanda once called Arness a true gentleman, saying he treated everyone on set with the same level of kindness. Arness admired her commitment to the show and her strong spirit, often saying she brought an energy to the set that lifted everyone's mood. Still, they had disagreements at times. 2 decades of filming naturally brought creative conflicts. Amanda, known for speaking her mind, sometimes disagreed with producers about Miss Kitty's storylines. Because Arness was the lead, he often found himself trying to keep the peace, careful not to take sides. In the end, their friendship lasted because it was based on mutual respect and shared experience. They both understood the pressure of being at the center of such a long-running series. They helped one another through long workdays and the demands that came with fame. When Amanda left Gunsmoke in 1974, a year before the series ended, Arness reportedly felt her absence strongly. He later admitted the show never felt quite the same without her. After her departure, they saw each other less often. Arness preferred his quiet, private life, while Amanda stayed active with her charity work and occasional appearances. In later interviews, Amanda suggested that their connection was something only they understood, a quiet bond formed through years of working side by side. They shared laughter, long hours on set, and an emotional closeness that stayed with them, even when they weren't working together anymore. Their friendship reflected exactly what fans saw on screen: warm, complicated, respectful, and restrained. In many ways, their real friendship added authenticity to the characters of Matt Dillon and Miss Kitty. The hesitation, the warmth, the closeness, and the emotional distance were all real, shaped by who they were as people rather than by any script. Behind the fame, the smiles, and the long-running success of Gunsmoke, both James Arness and Amanda Blake carried emotional challenges that most people never knew about. Their lives were admired by millions, yet they faced private pain and personal struggles that shaped them far more deeply than the world ever saw. For James Arness, the challenge that shaped him the most began long before he ever stepped into Hollywood. During World War II, while serving as a rifleman in the U.S. Army, he was seriously wounded in the Battle of Anzio. The injury to his leg caused lifelong pain and gave him a limp that he worked hard to hide on camera. He filmed through constant discomfort, yet he almost never mentioned it. His ability to keep going became part of his strength, both as a person and in his role as the calm and steady Marshal Matt Dillon. But behind that steady presence, Arness carried emotional wounds too. The war left him with memories he never fully escaped, and the sudden attention that came with fame made life even harder. He never enjoyed the spotlight and often described himself as a private man who felt trapped by public expectations. Away from the studio, he looked for peace in quiet places. He liked fishing, riding horses, and spending time on his ranch, where he could step away from the pressure of a world that never quite fit his personality. His personal life held deep sadness as well. His first wife, Virginia Chapman, whom he married in 1948, died from a drug overdose in 1977. The loss devastated him. Their marriage had already gone through years of strain because of his busy career and her battle with addiction. They had 3 children together, and one of them, Ralph, faced serious struggles that caused Aries even more emotional pain. Even with all this, Aries seldom spoke about his private problems. He preferred to keep his feelings to himself, much like the characters he often played. Amanda Blake, on the other hand, faced a different kind of pain. Her life looked glamorous from the outside, but she lived with loneliness and health issues that she kept hidden behind her bright smile. She married 4 times, yet none of those relationships gave her the lasting happiness she hoped for. Friends said Amanda loved deeply, and often struggled when others couldn't return that same level of affection. When she was not working, she devoted herself to animal rescue and charity work. Caring for animals gave her comfort because they never let her down. But even that could not shield her from the long-term effects of smoking, which eventually led to cancer in the 1980s. She handled her illness quietly, avoiding sympathy and continuing to appear cheerful even when she was suffering. Her illness, combined with the sadness of declining fame, made her final years emotionally heavy. She became more withdrawn and preferred to spend her time with close friends and the animals she loved. Still, she remained proud of her career. In one of her last interviews, she said she hoped people would remember her as someone who cared deeply. Both James and Amanda shared a kind of inner strength that made them similar at heart. They knew how to perform with professionalism even while hiding private struggles. They experienced loss, heartbreak, and disappointment, but they never allowed those experiences to make them cold. Instead, their hardships gave them warmth and authenticity, the same qualities that made their performances so memorable. Their private battles remind us that behind every well-known figure is a person carrying burdens that fame cannot take away. And perhaps that is why audiences connected with them. Even when they played heroes, they were simply 2 people learning how to face life's pain with courage and dignity. As time moved on after Gunsmoke ended in 1975, both James Aries and Amanda Blake stepped into a quieter, more thoughtful chapter of their lives. It was a chapter shaped by age, experience, and the lessons they had learned during their years on screen. For James Aries, fame had never been something he sought. He often said that acting was a job, not his whole identity. When Gunsmoke came to an end after an impressive 20-year run, one of the longest in television history, Aries felt a mix of relief and sadness. He had played Matt Dillon for 2 decades, and the character had become part of him. After the show ended, he chose not to remain in Hollywood. Instead, he stepped away from public life and moved back to a peaceful routine at his home in California. He spent his days outdoors, fishing, riding horses, and enjoying the quiet he had missed for so long. He rarely gave interviews, and when he did, he spoke modestly, always acknowledging the cast and crew instead of highlighting himself. People who knew him said he was loyal, gentle, and steady, someone who never allowed fame to change his nature. Even so, he stayed connected to fans. He responded to letters and often said he was grateful that people still appreciated his work. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, Aries returned briefly for several Gunsmoke reunion movies, stepping back into the role one final time. Seeing him as Matt Dillon again brought enormous joy to longtime fans. After those films, he gradually disappeared from public view again, choosing privacy until he passed away peacefully in 2011 at the age of 88. Amanda Blake, after leaving Gunsmoke in 1974, also entered a period of change. She made a few more television appearances and took on small film roles, but her heart was no longer in Hollywood. Her focus shifted to animal welfare, which became her true passion. She played a major role in creating the Arizona Animal Welfare League, one of the earliest no-kill shelters in the country. She dedicated herself to protecting endangered animals and used her fame to support causes she believed in. People who met her in those years described her as kind, warm, and full of purpose, qualities that made her just as admirable in real life as the character she played on screen. Sadly, her later years were affected by health problems. Her long struggle with smoking led to cancer, and although she fought bravely, she passed away in 1989 at the age of 60. Her loss deeply affected fans and those who knew her well. If you enjoyed learning the real story behind Matt Dillon and Miss Kitty, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more untold Hollywood moments. Drop a comment and let me know which part surprised you the most.